Good afternoon. My name is Guta Cvetkovic. I'm a chaplain here at Capital Lakes, and I welcome you to our community. When two communities come together, a community here and a community of family and friends, we are delighted. We are also saddened that the people who lost their lives are not more with us. But here we are. I would like to, as words of gathering and opening, I would like to read you a poem by E. Cummings. I carry your heart. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I'm never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no faith. You are my faith, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are, my world, my true. And it is you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than the soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that is keeping the stars apart. I would like to welcome Don Katz now with his portion of this service.
So from a Buddhist perspective, this body and this lifespan is only the smallest part of who we truly are. And so I'd like to do a short poem and a song that I'm hoping you'll help me with that reflect that Buddhist perspective. These are by Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese monk. This body is not you. You are not caught in this body. You are life without boundaries. You have never been born and you have never died. Look at the ocean and the sky filled with stars, manifestations of your wondrous mind. Since before time, you have been here. Birth and death are only doors through which we pass, sacred thresholds on our journey. Birth and death is a hide-and-seek game. So laugh with me, hold my hand, let us say goodbye. Say goodbye to meet again soon. We meet today, we will meet tomorrow. We shall meet at the source every moment. We meet together in all forms of life. So in the words of the song, I'll just tell you and then I'll teach you the melody, are no coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me, I release you to be so free, because I am in you and you are in me, because I am in you and you are in me. So it goes like this. No coming, no going, no after, no before. So try just that much. No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me. Try that. I hold you close to me. I release you to be so free. Try that. I release you to be so free, because I am in you and you are in me, because I am in you and you are in me, because I am in you and you are in me. Let's try it all the way through. A couple times. No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me, I release you to be so free, because I am in you and you are in me. Because I am in you and you are in me. One more time. No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me, I release you to be so free, because I am in you and you are in me. Because I am in you and you are in me. Thank you.
This is from the New Testament, the book of Matthew, the 5th chapter. Jesus gives the Sermon on the Mount. Now, when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. Amen.
don't know if those who die live on in spirit, nor whether we will ever meet again. But I believe in immortality. As long as our lost loved ones are remembered, they live on, immortal in memory. Yet more than memory, each life has impacts on so many others who in turn pass on that influence. Think of the impact of infants on their families, and of children on their playmates, and of adolescents on their first love, and how an adult's influence and contributions to family, friends, students, communities, and workplaces spread to others. My father's honesty lives on, my mother's thrift, my best friend's love of sports, my sister's poetry, none rich or famous, all immortal, part of others and of me. Each life we celebrate today left so many marks upon the world will never be the same, because they dropped their pebbles into the great pond of life, and still their circles spread and touch others who touch others, and on, and so they live forever. They have sailed away from us on that voyage we all will take. They have gone on ahead and perhaps await our coming in our time, in time, sometime, or perhaps not. Perhaps they are still with us in memory faces, memory voices, in who we have become. Nobody who was loved will ever stop being.
This is a sacred place. Capitol Lakes campus is built over the mound area where an ancient culture from many moons ago lies resting. The lark and the nightingale are their choir. The cathedral sky is their shelter. The trees and flowering shrubs are their walls. In this sacred place, I offer a prayer to Gitche Manadu, the Great Spirit. For those we remember today, when they came to join us here, they became our brothers and our sisters. They became our family. And our thoughts of them are warm and sweet. I'd like to say the Lord's Prayer, a translation by Chief Yellowlark of the Lakota Sioux Nation. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the wind, hear me. I come before you, one of your children. I am small and weak. I need your strength and your wisdom. Let me walk in beauty, and let my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. The lessons that you have hidden in every leaf and every rock. I seek strength, not to be stronger than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me ever ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so that when life fades as a sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame.
The persons we are remembering and honoring today were our neighbors, our friends, our dearly loved family members. They were givers or sources of love and nurture, guidance, wisdom, and happiness. The light and warmth of their presence enriched our lives. We find great comfort knowing that, as we remember them and the time spent with them, they continue to give us those gifts and blessings. As I read the name of each person we are remembering today, a family member, friend, or staff member is invited to come up and take a flower in tribute to that person. We also invite you to share with us as you choose a characteristic or special memory of that person who was dear to you. The sharing of these special memories helps us all to heal from the loss of these significant people in our lives. Catherine Voigt, Heights resident.
When Katie moved in, the most wonderful thing that happened for her is that a woman who also is no longer with us, Helen Lutke, was her mentor and took Catherine under her wing. And Catherine thrived on that friendship and happiness. And then Helen died, and Catherine really was around very much. So I would stop and talk with her, but it was kind of sad.
I got to know, okay. Alice?
Catherine's life as a businesswoman was interesting. Her husband was an agent for a string of hotels. I believe it was a Holiday Inn. And it was his job positioned him in Europe, and they lived in France for quite a while. And she became the decor help to him. She fashioned the draperies, and she ordered the things, and she really lived a really full life in this mountainous area. His people that were artistic came, and she thrived on that, and she spent many happy hours talking about that.
Catherine loved the Madison Symphony, and it gave her great joy to attend concerts. The last couple of years she wasn't able to attend. But I know that over the years that she lived here and did, that it brought her great joy. She always had a smile on her face every time I saw her there.
John Marshall, Main Gate and Terraces resident.
I was very happy when John and his wife moved in next door to me, and I was mentor for them. However, each had some serious issues. And John was a quiet, wonderful person. I believe he was head of psychiatry at the department at University of Wisconsin. But he was really struggling with the effects of Parkinson's. And I was really sad when he moved down to the assisted living. I went to see him there, but he was not very talkative at all.
I only knew John and Kathy for a very short time, but that time was very wonderful. I think what I remember most about them, besides both being very quiet, they were both very intelligent and very considerate of each other. I think their relationship together was something really admirable.
John and Kathy were my neighbors in Main Gate. Kathy was an interior decorator as a second career after being a teacher, and She had such beautiful taste, and her apartment was lovely to behold. And she was suffering while John was still with her. And finally, she moved to hospice. And John just didn't want to live after that. He did go to terraces, but he just let go.
I'm not so sure about this one. Alicia Waisoka?
Alicia was my mother-in-law, and I have some fond memories of taking her from the Midwest when we were out in Denver, Colorado, taking her off the plane. She was originally from the north of Poland, in Gdynia. Had moved to Milwaukee after finding out that she can move there with her husband and children, and it's quite good times when we got to bring her out to Colorado. I remember taking her off the plane, and within 45 minutes we're up 8,000 feet looking over the great Midwest on the plains and the snow-covered Rockies. 6 years later, I'm here working at Capitol Lakes and had the pleasure to rehab her. She was on the 3rd floor, on the long-term care floor for just about a year, which was a good experience to where her grandkids could see her more. And I just like to think, being a therapist here, big thanks to everybody that works on the 3rd floor, because it's just tireless work with the nursing staff. Brenda, the activities coordinator in LA, there's so many people up there that just tireless work that, do that day in and day out. Very appreciative of that.
Alicia was a devoted Catholic, and I learned a story from second daughter of the two of them taking a pilgrimage, actually, from North Poland to the south, to the sacred site that all people from Poland and region would gather. Weeks of walking together, devoting themselves to God, and experience that communion with others was very significant to Alicia and to family.
Dorothy Weiner, Health Center.
I had the privilege of knowing Dorothy and her husband, and Dorothy was lived at home until her last week or two, and when I did her husband's funeral, she was she was well, but had lots of pain in her body, but she still was worried about feeding everybody. She wanted everyone to come to her house and make them food, even though she had just lost her husband. And I just think of that, and she had a quite tragic life in some ways. She lost 2 of her 3 daughters once they were adults, but she still was a lovely woman who wanted to give to everybody else, even though so much had been taken from her.
Dorothy's family was very supportive, and her nieces were almost every day with her, and it was wonderful to see that celebration of her life that we had here.
Richard Horst, previous chaplain.
I met Dick Hurst, at my husband's passing. He was the chaplain here, and my husband was here for a year and a half. And he kept phoning me, and I wasn't answering any phones. I was thinking my own thoughts. And he kept on calling and calling. And he had been there when, I can't think what tribe she was in, but it was a southern Native American tribe, came and blessed my husband as he lay there and put things on him. And the reason Dick was calling and calling and calling, he wanted to use that as a sermon base for his congregation. He was an active chaplain. But we became friends, and because he had been so kind at my time, the low time in my life, I had him in the back of my mind when I was looking at something in Westby at a Norwegian folk festival. I kept looking at this carving of a branch in some type of a tree. It reminded me of something, and I didn't know what, but I made 4 and 5 trips back and forth, and finally I bought it, took it home, wrapped it up, and put it carefully in a drawer. And I wondered what I was going to do with it. I wasn't going to hang it on the wall or put it out in the open. It just had some symbolism to me. Well, Dick was coming back and forth, and we'd have breakfast, and he was coming in from Florida sometimes and coming in from Illinois as he moved around in his calling. And the last time he came, I knew I was going to meet him for breakfast with a friend of ours, and so I took this branch that had been carefully polished, and it just reminded me of something symbolic. And I thought I'd give it to Dick. And he took it and he said, "Oh, I've been looking for something to give to people that I'm helping in hospice. This is perfect." And I knew then that is why I had bought it.
Dick was one of the first people I met when I moved here and moved into Main Gate. He was living in Main Gate at the time. And he got me started on giving my time to living here. And I didn't know what it was about, but he said, "Would you please be floor rep?" And I said, "Okay." I didn't know what it involved, really, but it worked out all right. He moved away from here, but he came back several times. And when he had dinner with Edith Harb, I was invited to join in. And he was just a delightful man, very relaxed, very interesting, and talked about his family, which he had moved next to.
I too have just a fleeting dear memory of Dick Horst. Knew him for a short time, found him very helpful, a lovable man. Thank you for reminding me again of Dick Horst.
Walker Reed, Heights Independent Assisted Living and Health Center. Do you want to go first?
No, I'd like to be first. My husband and I have lived here 7 years, and in the early years, Walker was living in Independent, and we often had heated discussions at dinner. He was very informed about theater, movies, and he carried that enthusiasm to the terraces, and he was somewhat controversial. He decided that he would run all the movies in the terraces, which were every night, and sometimes, if people came late, he got very annoyed. So some people stopped coming. But they do have a very lovely theater in the terraces, and I remember seeing him in the health center, and they were showing him the value of music and memory. He was one of the first residents there that they started this program, and I'll remember him.
I'd like to say something about Walker Reed. I'm going to try to keep it together because he and I were very close, especially when it came to working on the films. For those of you who didn't know him, you're about to get a taste of him because Walker Reed talked like this all the time. He was best known for his unusual cadence and flair for drama. He majored in speech and drama at the University of Wisconsin. He studied acting in New York City and hosted a radio show in Texas and directed many plays in Guatemala. Y por eso hablaba español como inglés. And for this reason, he spoke Spanish just like English. He was known for having an almost perfect memory for films, only before 1990. He could tell you the title, the year, the director, the writer, every actor, their birthday, their parents' birthdays. Oh, yeah. He started the Willow Movie Group at Terraces, and I knew I was in for many conversations about the films, Lexisia. We have to talk about the films. He decided to call me Lexisia because he decided I was a synesthetic experience. He made a lot of unconventional observations. He was once having a very quiet conversation with someone in the dining room. That is still my favorite of all time. It went something like, "That girl over there, Lexi, I suspect that she is a socialist because when people argue, she says peace and love." I really miss Walker Reed. I miss his loud voice, all of his passionate arguments, his enthusiasm for films and history. But I'm very happy that we got to spend some time with Walker Macmillan Reed.
He was fun to know, even when he got on your nerves. We pushed him so we'd get more fun. And even when he was weak in the health center, he was still carrying on his drama in his speech.
When I met Walker, he was still in independent living, and people were avoiding sitting at the table with him because he repeatedly told stories of military exploits of General MacArthur and various other generals back through history. And then I discovered that I could get him off of that and get him talking about the plays that he directed when he was working for the Park Service. And that made things a good deal more varied. And toward the end of his time in independent living, he started talking Spanish with, what's her name?
Marina.
With Marina. So at that time, Marina was speaking no English, and she had somebody to eat dinner with.
Beulah Siles, Health Center and Terraces resident. Beulah was a really incredible woman. She was mostly from Madison. What you might not have known about Beulah was that she had over 50 foster children. She was very, very passionate about helping others. I know a lot of us here are very passionate about helping others, but Beulah took it to a new level. She spent all of her time volunteering at hospitals with children. She worked for the Wisconsin Homemakers Program, so she went into people's homes and helped mothers and children learn different things. She was incredibly passionate in everything that she did, even with her dementia, she still spent all of her time helping everyone on her floor. She was sure that she worked here with us, and we all really miss her over at Terraces.
In our church services, Beulah was a greeter, an usher. She collected the programs after the service, all the tasks that were there for several people she would do by herself for all of us there. We miss Beulah.
Nancy Stolen, Health Center.
Nancy lived at the health center with her husband, Don. They came from Sun Prairie area. They were members of Good Shepherd Episcopal Church in Sun Prairie. And Nancy talked about her life, the best memories from their cottage and vacation place in Canada. Every summer they would leave beautiful Wisconsin and head north to Canada and spend their time there with the family. And she always went back in her memories and her stories to that place and recalled it with great pleasure. We remember Nancy.
Arnita Halley, Heights and Terraces.
I got to know Arnita because we were both on the welcome committee, and she was just a lovely woman. So when she moved down to the assisted living, I visited her quite often, and it was just a delightful experience being with her.
I'm a member of the Cultured Pearls, the knitters here at Capitol Lakes, and I remember the first few years when I came here. Arnita was present at all our meetings. She did beautiful knitting. She was always beautifully dressed, and she was so kind. She thought everybody else was doing everything beautifully, too.
Arnita and I moved into the 9th floor just after it was remodeled. And we took on the task, we were the plant ladies. And the lobby and the plants in the lobby were our responsibility. So she taught me to fill a plastic milk bottle with water that had soaked tea bags. And that was proper for the plants that didn't have flowers. And I had to take care of the plants that did have flowers. The rest of the people on the floor, I don't think were aware of how seriously we took our responsibilities. Arnita was such a wonderfully calm, kind, stable, always friendly, always ready to listen to you and support whatever you were doing. She'd laugh at the jokes. You could complain about somebody and she'd chit with you. So meeting her was one of the important things of my life, not just here. But I'm grateful to have known her. When she moved to assisted living, she acted like she loved to have me visit her, and I had the illusion that I was brightening her day. One more thing about her, her 2 adult children, one with family, one without, didn't live here. So in all the time I knew her, she had no family that she could regularly see, and they visited her once a year, and then she had a chance to be with them. I did get to meet her daughter, Anne, who is carrying on Arnita's tradition of being a wonderful person.
Arnita was a very sweet and kind woman. She was also an avid letter writer. When I invited her to my wedding, she RSVP'd that she could not attend because she could not see very well. So I assured her, no, I have a volunteer who'd like to go with you as your date. And she agreed, okay, I can attend. I heard from my volunteer when she showed up to pick her up that Arnita had a card ready and waiting for her to sign. because she told her volunteer that even if she was attending as Arnita's date, she still had to bring her own card. That was the proper thing to do. Arnita also wrote thank you letters to Santa Claus every single year and stuck them in her stocking after Christmas, and I know Santa Claus was always very touched by that.
I needed all these good people to show me how loving and great Arnita was, because for a number of months after I first knew her, when I was trying to set up chairpersons for the groups in independent living, Arnita was never available. She was, well, turned out she was very unavailable just to help me. She was doing much, much more.
Gladys Schroeder of the Health Center.
Gladys lived only 3 weeks with our community. She was with hospice, and we had the privilege to accompany her through her last weeks of her life, and we remember her.
Alice Bernack of the Heights and Health Center.
Alice was a very interesting person and a prolific writer. She wrote many of her writings with us through the Center Post. And she was quite strong and adamant about the Holocaust because of what she never went to a camp, but she lost all her family. And I can't remember what saved her, why she didn't wind up going to the camps. But she was a very strong person, and she really spoke up if anyone said anything that she didn't think was right when it came to defending, the Holocaust.
I think she went to the concentration camp, but by the end of the war, yeah, she was. Yeah.
I was Alice's caregiver and had the supreme privilege of helping her in her writings that she would write every week here. And when she wrote, she was very conscious and aware of the fact that she was writing for each ancestor and her brother and her mother and her aunt and her grandparents. And she brought that right to the paper. So my stories became her stories, and her stories became my stories. I heard she was also in Auschwitz. She got there at 17, and she left at 22. She was freed by King Christian X, of Denmark. She told me the story that the Red Cross buses came to get them, and they were all afraid to go on the buses, because Hitler used the Red Cross buses as a decoy. But somebody else understood in the group some of the words that the Denmark people were telling them to come and come and come. And they decided to go on the bus. And when they got over the line, she had the most beautiful story. The people of Denmark baked all these beautiful, she said, like fairy tale cakes. They were decorated and magical looking for her, like a fairy tale. Like she said, what got her through the camps was her stories that her mother would read to her on Hans Christian Andersen. And so she made everything magical. And the experience came when she came over the line. She got to Denmark, and the people were there waiting with these cakes and these beautiful treats, and nobody could eat them. They didn't know to approach the table. because everything that they did, they were conditioned that they would be killed. So she didn't know what to do. And when they finally had the trust to get up to the table with their slips and everything else, they only had a small amount of garments. They started taking the cakes and the treats and plastering them on their body underneath their garments that they, worn-torn garments that they had, because, you know, they were used to saving everything that they have. And then the last thing I'd like to say is, she also told me the story. I remember all the stories. They're so important. But she also told me the story when she was from Kelsey, Poland. And she was well-to-do at the time. And her parents didn't want to leave because they had a ranch with horses and orchards, and they were landowners. But when the Germans came to take them away, they took 9 out of a town of 90,000 to keep, you know, go and keep. And she was one of 9. She was a daughter of a doctor, and her uncles were a famous doctor. And her uncle was the first one to make the X-ray machine, so he was quite well known. And they kept her because they thought she would have nursing skills. And with 5 of the women out of the 9, all the men passed, and the 5 women made it, because they stayed together when one was in the kitchen or when they stole, or, you know, if that's stealing. But they kept together and they shared everything that they had. And at the end, they all made it on that bus. That's all.
Thank you.
I only knew Alice at the end of her life, but I got to meet her family at her funeral. And her daughter-in-law said that her son had passed away before her, but her daughter-in-law said that Alice taught her the real meaning of unconditional love. And that really struck me, that a woman who had been through so much pain could teach another younger woman about love after what she had been through. And there's a commandment in Judaism, more to remember than to believe. And Alice really held that to be true and helped us all remember so that it won't happen again.
I want to apologize because I mixed up what I know about Alice. Do you know who else I was thinking of? You do, with another person whose story at least turned out better than Alice's. She did escape going to the camp. I mean, she served elsewhere, but yeah. Sorry.
I just want to let you know we have a copy of her book in our library, and if you would like to read and remind yourself of Alice's story, it's available there.
Is it under that name?
Yeah.
Leah McCurry of Main Gate and Terraces.
Leah was living next door to me in Main Gate for many years. I don't know the date she moved in, but she was very, very friendly, and she was always helping other people in the terraces. She constantly was visiting people, talking to them, bringing things, and it was ironic that she ended up in the terraces. And eventually, her speech left her, and she moved to the Ivy, the top floor, the memory unit of the health center. And she had a friend here who would come to feed her once a week. And her daughter, Carol, came all the time. And I would see Carol taking her outside in a nice day. She was in a wheelchair, and they would go just to get the sunshine and the fresh air. And it was very sad to see her in the end not being able to speak and needing to be fed. But she was so giving.
Leah was originally from Brooklyn, New York. She was the vice principal and then principal at a children's school. Leah was really big in child rights. She really cared about children and how to defend them. She did definitely volunteer, I think, everywhere in this building, but I know she volunteered at Terraces because she volunteered with me. One night in the dining room, I remember, I did not realize I had a final that night, so I was sitting there crying, thinking I wouldn't make it to my final, and Leah came in. She was always very nice, but she would never coddle you. And so she said to me, "Stop crying. We need to get to work to get you out of here." But Leah was very kind, very giving, and especially one resident at the Terraces who's difficult to communicate with. Leah really had a special relationship with her, and I always appreciated that.
Leah was a small person, but she seemed tall because she was so strong. But after my husband passed away, I was kind of like a zombie for a while. I found myself standing near the big chandelier in the front hall, and a soft voice came in, a sweet face looked around and said, "Are you looking for something?" She wasn't telling me I was lost, but I was. And she said, "Let's think of what you wanted to do." And she got me out of it with her little soft voice. She was just terrific.
The first time I met Leah was shortly after I moved in 4 years ago. She liked to come and listen to the gentlemen, that choral group that would practice here on Sunday evenings. And I introduced myself to her being new, and she said, "Well, I live in Main Gate, but it won't be long because I have Alzheimer's and I'm going to be moving." Well, she did move to the Terraces, and the next time I saw her was at the Saturday morning social. She was so busy helping everybody. And I said, "Leah, this is your time to sit. We're supposed to be helping you."
Everyone said so much. I'm not going to say much, except that I was on the other side, next door. She was there. She was my first neighbor in Main Gate. And what was so hard, well, it's not hard really. I'm just kidding. But she was my champion as far as loving everything that I wrote for the Sunday Post. And she was always cheering me on and saying how wonderful it was. So it's kind of nice I lost that cheering squad.
When I moved to Main Gate, the first person that started a friendship with me was Leah, and she kind of showed me the ropes. When she moved to assisted living, I get very tired, so I couldn't walk there, and there's no other way of getting there. So I didn't see her at assisted living, and it hurt.
Jane Lewin of Main Gate and Terraces.
Sally first.
When you move into Capitol Lakes, you meet such an array of people, but you meet people with hobbies and interests that are just totally amazing. Jane trained dogs, loved dogs, had a dog when she moved in. Then her family decided that it would not be good for her to take the dog out without supervision and so on, so the dog was taken away. Now, Jane and Dick Wilder used to sit almost every morning over in the corner by the coffee jug and visit, or somewhere else and visit. The two were inseparable. Well, one morning, I came down and saw them sitting there, and I realized that Jane's dog, Sammy, had been taken from her. But the preceding week, I was helping at our church at a trash and treasure sale. There was a pile of stuffed animals, and there was a little dog, a brown dog with floppy ears, and I thought, this is for Jane. So anyway, I bought it, brought it home, took it up to the apartment. So I said to Jane and Dick, stay right there, don't move, I'm going to get a dog. And of course, you know, yeah, sure. So I went up and got the dog, just a little tiny thing, but it reminded me of Sammy. And as I was handing it to her, she touched the bottom of the dog and went, arf, arf. And we were all shocked. I had no idea the dog had a voice, right? So ever after when I saw her, I asked how Sammy was, and she'd say, on the dresser, watching me.
I was putting through my mind what I would like to say about love. I learned truly love is where you find it, but if you keep running to a situation where there's abundance of hate and distrust, but if this happens, and I imagine you have at one time or another, for me, I kept prying at the lid of hate and distrust, and it was extremely rewarding to see what a flowering beauty of love can be. Sometimes it doesn't come at all easy, but if you believe in that, and there's love and good in everyone, and no matter how it's hidden, I kept prying at it and getting to know somebody like I did, like I found Jane, that deepened my love. And I was going to say, well, I run into that again, I'll start prying again. But no, it was a wondrous experience that you can get. So you have to keep digging. And if you're fortunate enough to someone like Jane, where when it does blossom fruit, you're well rewarded.
So I guess you could describe my mom as someone who maybe a little rough on the exterior, but was never afraid to speak her opinion, and I think I probably inherited that trait from her. A lot of things maybe you didn't know about my mom. She had a horse farm. She ran a horse farm on her own, loved horses, loved animals. Her beloved dog, Sammy, who is still around today. My son actually helps take care of Sammy sometimes, so he's doing well. Also her cat, McKenna, that she had till the end. So, you know, I have a lot of great memories of my mom here. Everybody here was just so wonderful. Eating over at the lunchbox and just hanging out. And yeah, and I think like the most rewarding thing for my mom was the chance to find love again with Dick. Just the two of them. It was a really neat experience to see that, and really grateful that Dick came into her life.
Well, I met Jane when she lived in Main Gate, and she wasn't feeling well, and the receptionist at that time asked me if I would walk Sammy and for her. Well, he wouldn't go very far without turning around and looking forlorn at Jane, like, "Aren't you coming with me?" And so she'd say, get going, she's going to take you. And so he'd go a little ways further, and then he'd turn around again. And he had such a darling face, and he'd look so forlorn. But anyway, I just fell in love with him, and so I would have taken care of him whenever and however that I could, but I didn't know that he was going to be moved, and otherwise I would have offered to keep him here so she could come up to my apartment and see him, but anyway, that never happened.
Well, I knew Jane before she moved into Capitol Lakes, and she lived in Oregon. And what she would do on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning between 5:45 and 7:45, she would go swimming. And that's how I knew her. I didn't know her in any other way than seeing her and greeting her and saying good morning. But I always admired her because I thought, as I age, I want this to be a part of my life too. And I, not aiming to get up for work, but she was there between that hour.
Frederick Blanke, Terraces resident.
I met Fred, as many others did, before he ever moved to assisted living. He would come swimming, and he would have lunch at the cafe, and he was very active in Play-Doh. He led programs. He was on the health committee, so he was very well known, and happily many people did go visit him when he moved to the Terraces. And he loved to make people smile. He'd come in to the lunchroom or the dining room, "Hello, everybody," and sometimes he'd have a friend come and sing, just to get people's emotions and their attention, or he'd have someone come and play the violin. But people were often not responsive, and he stopped doing that, but he had, with his career as being a director of a health center, had lots of ideas of how things should be run. And sometimes there was a conflict that he was not in charge, but he gave his opinion when we had monthly meetings. And I would visit Fred when he would come, and he
he was very sick, and he had given 3 sets of chimes that are outdoors on the willow patio, and he wanted those given and left there. So we still have this remembrance of Fred every time we're on the patio, and I do miss him.
Fred Blanke was my friend. He was my mentor and my father figure, and the one that gave me the strength to go on for many, many things. He helped me write my last book. He gave me something to think about all the time, and I miss him too much. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's not gonna go away for a long time. But anyways, I want to say that my last book is now being published, of which he did help me immensely, and it's a copy of it will be given to the library in memory of him, and which you can read in the dedication part. His name is there. I couldn't have done it without him. I am very grateful for his friendship, and I will miss him forever.
I also met Fred here swimming, and he asked me if I would give him rides from his home to the swimming place, which I agreed to do. Every time I picked him up from here into the swimming center, I would have to listen to his thoughts on the meaning of life. He loved to talk about the meaning of life. He also loved German shepherds, which he tended to overfeed greatly. So Fred, wherever you are, I hope you're surrounded by all your shepherds, and I hope you are all at a healthy weight.
Fred's life was so full and so rich. I don't know where to start or where to end. He was a physician, so helping others was his profession, but healing was his compassion, his mission, his meaning in life was healing. Wherever there was someone where he would be able to help, he was always there. And of course, yes, the meaning of life. He was reading books and books about the human brain and, where does the brain end? Does it end? Is there something beyond it? It's too long to go into it. I would need hours. So I'll pass it on to Tilly.
Okay. Mary, you summed it up, and it's come from all directions talking about Fred. I was going to generalize, and you people were giving specific things, but I just wanted to say Fred was thinking and wondering and searching and taking life as one challenge after another and always trying to find more answers and believing in eternal things that he kept seeking. And I think that's what drew him to so many Plato volunteer hours that he gave, and that people found themselves drawn to Fred because he was that kind of a fellow human being, searching, thinking always. Thank you for sharing, Mary Louise.
There is a letter that Fred wrote just to say goodbye to you. Dearest friend, several days ago, my good Lord and Shepherd took me back to his eternal nucleus of creation. I want to deeply thank all my friends for their compassion, companionship, kindness, and love during my journey through this mysterious and precious life. If at all possible, I will wait for your arrival to continue our treasured friendship. Again, thank you very much for all of your love. Without your patience with me, I would have perished long ago. Now, I can be humbly grateful for this greatest gift, having been alive with you as a travel mate, Dr. Fred Blanke, medical doctor, Casa Pax, Madison, Wisconsin.
John Purcell, Main Gate resident.
Well, I would guess not too many of you got to know John. He was a regular for breakfast at the cafe about 9 o'clock in the morning, or you might see him sitting in the lobby with a lap full of mail. He was a person that had 2 moves forced on him in his later years, but I think he never lost the little twinkle in his eye.
Carmen Pagan, Health Center resident.
Carmen was my mom. She was born in Puerto Rico, and she lived in New York for over 20-something years. She went back to Puerto Rico, and then she came to Madison about 12 years ago. And before she came to Capitol Lake, she lived in assisted living for about 4 years. And then she lived here about 6.5 years. With the care that the health center was giving her and, the support of the family. Also, she was very devoted to serving God. She loved her family. She loved to go to church. She loved to go out shopping and dining out. She was a very strong person when she loved life. She liked to go to different activities, weddings, birthday, She got bored. She stayed home. She was bored. She liked to go out. And we miss her terribly. I'm sorry. I want to thank the staff on Capitol Lake. She lived in the health center, but they gave her a lot of support. Before she got sick, after she got sick this time, about a month ago, she was in Merida about a week. Then she went to hospice, where she passed away. That's That's all I can speak. I don't, my daughter want to say something. She's in the back.
Carmen Pagan was my grandmother, and she was such a courageous woman. She was super rough around the edges, but she had a lot of love in her heart. She loved the Lord and was always ready to share. It didn't matter who was around her, she was always sharing the love of God. She died at the age of 100, and we miss her. We thank Capital Lakes for everything. We've been so amazing with her. Thank you.
The mourner's cottage, the mourner's cottage is a prayer of affirmation of one's faith, recognizing a time of sadness, loss, memories, and mourning, while also realizing that life goes on. The prayer dates back to the Middle Ages and is written in the vernacular of the Jewish people in Palestine. Yitkadal v'yitkadash me rabbah, v'yamod divrach yiruteh, v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayachon v'yomachon, v'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, v'agalav izmain kariv, v'yemru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach, le'olam olmei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh v'yithada v'yithalal, v'yithalal shmei dekucha barichu. Le'elam in kol bechata, v'shirata, pushbachata, v'nechamata, da'amiram b'yamo v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, huyasei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
Before we sing our last song, I thought I'd let you know a little bit about us. And we are the Threshold Singers of Madison, and we are a chapter in the larger organization of Threshold Choir International. And what we do is we sing at bedside for the seriously ill, dying, and grieving. And we can do that either in someone's home, in a hospital, at a hospice center, or a care facility such as Capital Lakes. And we have had the practice of always participating in this memorial service because we do, on a weekly basis, sing for some of the residents here at Capital Lakes. We sing on 3rd floor, and we have just recently added some individuals in the assisted living area. So, like you, these individuals have become a part of our hearts. And so we're grateful to have that experience, and we're always honored and privileged to sing for someone. So before we sing our last song, the words are in your program, so we invite you to sing along. What we're going to do first, though, we're going to sing the song to you, and once we would like you to join us, I will give you a cue to do that. So.
How well do I
thank you all for coming and participating in this service. I also want to remind us all that our life is short and precious, and that we do not have too much time to gladden the hearts of those who travel the way with us. So be swift to love, and may haste to be kind, and may the blessing of the one who made us, loves us, and journeys with us be upon us and our loved one forevermore. Thank you all for coming. We have still Mary and Jean. They'll play postlude, and you're welcome to stay for refreshments and be here for a while.